Hey everybody, what is going on? XLX here, got another Master Duel video for you. So I do still plan on covering Blue Eyes, but of course you know that following this update wasn't just the pack, but the ban list, and I'm probably the only person in the world who is excited for exactly 2 cards getting unlimited, because one of them was Swap Frog, and this is actually monumental for Sprite. This does a lot for the archetype. So here we are with our first Sprite build. We're going to be on both Fiendsmith and Kashtira. This is, I think, weirdly about as close to a pure Sprite deck as you can get. I think that playing Cash and Fiendsmith is probably optimal if you're going to just be focusing on Sprite as an archetype. But of course the main star here is again the Swap Frog coming back to 3. So incredibly powerful for this deck. It works well with Gigantic. If you already opened like blue, then you can just summon the Swap Frog off of Gigantic. Of course it's great to dump off of Sprind as well, because then you can simply revive it with the Elf. And Swap Frog can activate its effect no matter how it's summoned, and it is not once per turn at all. So of course Swap Frog, when summoned, sends a level 2 or lower water aqua monster from the deck or face-up field to the graveyard. Naturally we're going to want to bin the Ronin Tonin, which by banishing a frog monster from the graveyard can special summon itself from the graveyard. Also, like Swap Frog, not once per turn. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. The other thing that's great about Swap Frog, one of very many things, is that it is also a 1-card starter by itself. If you open Swap Frog plus 4 hand traps, you can go normal summon Swap Frog, dump Ronin, link into Almirage, Ronin F, banish the Swap Frog, bring it back, then you can link into Elf, Elf bring back the Ronin, go into Gigantic, and it won't be like the most, you know, robust turn 1 inboard, but you do have options for plays, as opposed to something like Hero Kid that we were running before, you know, which is not a bad card, certainly, but if you open it and no, you know, Sprite monsters or other extenders, then it really just does not do anything by itself. But Swap Frog gives you at least some amount of utility, which I think is quite valuable. So again, here we are on both Fiendsmith and Kashtira. I know last time I played Fiendsmith and Sprite, I was a little bit down on it. I wasn't like the biggest fan of it in the world, but I will say the more I play, the more I actually do start to like it. The thing is though, here in the extra deck, I'm finding myself wanting, I think either... Probably not Appaloosa. Well, I guess it could be Appaloosa, right? Basically, the thing is, with the Fiendsmith bodies and also, like, getting locked with Sprite starter, I think the interactions there are some of the most awkward in the build, right? Like, you know, of course you need to do all of your Fiendsmith stuff before you 2-lock yourself, which usually isn't that big of a deal, but sometimes, you know, you don't really end up with a clean option to do so. And furthermore, sometimes it's a kind of a first world problem to have like so many bodies on board with the Fiendsmith stuff, because you need to like link them off in order to get them off the field. But you know, if you make like Elf and IP and SP, then you kind of don't have anything to go into, which is where I think Appaloosa could come in, either going into that with your Fiendsmith stuff before you 2-lock on turn 1, or using IP to go into it if you make IP plus SP. But that's all like so, again, first world problem, because the issue again there is that we opened too well and we have too many bodies. I think the Kashtira package is very nice when played with Fiendsmith in general, and as we have seen in the past, does also naturally play pretty well with Sprite. Something like Unicorn plus, you know, any level 2 monster that you normal summon can go into a Link 2 like Elf to bring back the 2 and then go into Gigantic, and then you'll still have Birth to bring back Unicorn, so on and so forth. So, the thing that I think I would probably focus on most about this build in particular is like the hand trap ratios. We're only on 2 Droll, we're on 2 Imperm and 1 Veiler. You might wonder like why would not just maxing out Droll because of how good it is in this format. And it is quite good, but I still like having a little bit of hand trap versatility, right? I don't want to open like 2 Drolls a lot of the time. I'd rather open Droll plus like a negate or something. And similarly, you know, if I'm going off with like Maxi, I want to be able to draw into a negate, because, you know, drawing into Droll super late into the opponent's, you know, special summoning off of Maxi isn't always going to be that helpful. Also cut Fuelos. Don't really have room for Fuelos in this build. If I wasn't playing the Cashier package, I'd probably just be playing the Fueloses and then maybe go down to 40 and or play a couple more hand traps. But again, I think that the Cashier engine does have a lot of value in a build like this. Still on Dark Beckoning Beast. This is... I mean, like Swap Frog, it's like one card Sprite line, but unlike Swap Frog, this is like a full one card Sprite board. The Cashier and Beckoning Beast both kind of play into Droll, which one of the things that is nice about Sprite is that as an engine, like, yeah, you have Blue and Jet, but those are literally the only two in-engine searches, so Sprite stuff inherently plays pretty well around Droll, and again, introducing both Cashier and I guess, again, Dark Beckoning Beast do kind of like leave you a little susceptible to Droll, but the thing is, if you normal summon Dark Beckoning Beast, add Gates, and they Droll you, you can still go Link Beckoning Beast into Almirage, Gates, discard, bring back Beckoning Beast, go into Elf, Elf, bring back Beckoning Beast. That's basically the exact same thing as if you'd open Swap Frog and nothing else. So really, I don't even consider Beckoning Beast to be like super duper weak to Droll. It's not optimal, it's gonna suck, but it's also not gonna stop you, you know, from making plays at all. So I think that's pretty much all the thoughts I have about this build so far. We'll definitely keep working on it. Of course, I love Sprite, you all know that, and I'm definitely thinking a lot about this deck. And we're definitely willing to try out some other variants as well. Again, I think the Swap Frog to 3 is pretty huge for this deck. But let's go ahead and break the deck list down card by card, and then we'll look at some games. We're on 1 Fabled Lurie, 1 Effect Veiler, 2 Droll Lockbird, 3 Swap Frog, 1 Ronin Totem, 2 Max C, 2 Dark Beckoning Beast, 2 Sprite Blue, 2 Sprite Jet, 1 Sprite Red, 1 Sprite Carrot, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Fiendsmith Engraver, 1 Cashier Fenrir, 2 Cashier Unicorn, 1 Fiendsmith Tract, 1 Pressured Planet Rates Off, 2 Nightmare Throne, 2 Opening of the Spirit Gates, 1 Cashier Birth, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Cross-Out Designator, 3 Sprite Starter, 1 Sprite Smashers, and finally 2 Infinite Impermanents. And that's going to be our main deck. For the extra, we are on 1 Fiendsmith Lacrima, 1 Fiendsmith Desiree, 2 Gigantic Sprite, 1 Beatrice Lady of the Eternal. We got 1 Divine Arsenal Awe, Zeus, Sky Thunder, 1 Salamangreat Almirage, 1 Fiendsmith's Requiem, 1 IEP Masquerena, 2 Sprite Elf, 1 Sprite Sprind, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Moon of the Closed Seven, and finally 1 Fiendsmith's Sequence. There's our list. Let's look at this gameplay. Okay, our first opponent is going to be on Tearlaments, and this is going to showcase not only a pretty solid turn 1 line, but also the power of Swap Frog. Now here, we actually have the kind of hand I was talking about, the deck profile, right? We have Swap Frog plus 4 hand traps. So I'm going to start with normal summon swap. My opponent's actually going to chain Tearlaments Cashier. I thought it was going to be a hand trap when I saw they had a response, but Tear Cash is actually fine. I thought for a moment, like, okay, is it more likely to be Tearlaments or Cashier? Cashier is seeing a little bit more popularity with the release of 7th Tachyon in this current meta, but I think it's more likely to be Tearlament here, and they're trying to mill 3 and see if they can like start doing some turn 0 play. So I definitely am going to chain my Maxi here. Besides, I want to see if I can get an extender to go along with this Swap Frog. Alright, there's Tear Cash, and then they're going to banish... Okay, let me actually go to that real quick. They banished Tearlament's Grief. And off of Maxi, you can see that we drew another Swap Frog. Now you might think, that's kind of unlucky. But Swap Frog does have an effect that lets it bounce itself, and it can also special summon itself by discarding 1 other water monster. So second Swap Frog is actually a fantastic extender, and is going to let us go into a full combo here. Now I'm going to use Swap Frog to mill Ronin. Opponent's going to mill 3 here, using the Meta Noise Mill to add the Rhino Heart Mill to hand. There's also Fairy Tale Snow in there, worth noting. Now I'll use Swap Frog's effect to bounce itself, discard to special summon. Again, we can mill the 3rd Swap Frog because it's not once per turn. Ronin, I'll special summon itself. And before going into anything Sprite related, I'm actually going to first go into Moon of the Closed Seven. That way I can link it off and then make the Fiendsmith's Requiem. And then now from here, of course, we're going to use Requiem's effect to tribute itself and then special summon the Engraver. Now, I still have 2 more Swap Frogs in the graveyard. I'll banish 1 of them to bring back Ronin. I'm going to link off Ronin with the Engraver in order to link into, of course, Fiendsmith's Sequence. Now at this point, we're going to activate the sequence effect. I'm actually going to put back everything, all 3, in order to summon Desiree, because I can go into full combo here. I don't need to go into Beatrice in order to do so. We're going to use Ronan to banish our 3rd and final Swap Frog and special summon itself. Now I can overlay the Ronan with the Fiendsmith sequence in order to make Gigantic Sprite. At this point, we're going to use Gigantic Sprite's effect to special summon Sprite Blue. Blue is going to grab Jet. Then, of course, we're going to want to activate Sequence in order to make sure that Desiree gets the Omni-Negate effect. Would hate to move to the end phase and have forgotten to have done that. So we're going to special Jet, add Starter. Now we can link Blue and Jet into Elf. Maybe I should have had Elf pointing to Desiree here to give it target protection, but I think we'll be fine. Bringing back just a random monster so I can link off into IP here. Now, because I have 2 Imperms, I'm going to use Starter for Carrot to negate spell traps, then set 2, and then pass. So, you know, Imperms aside here, as you can see, the difference that the second Swap Frog made was massive. Like, think about it. If we only had the 1 Swap Frog, we would be ending on Elf IP, and I don't think anything else. But the second Swap Frog alone let us add even more negates to our inboard, including going into a full Fiendsmith line. That's awesome. Again, Swap Frog is massive going to 3. Do not sleep on this at all. We're going to use Elf to bring back Jet as my opponent is threatening to end the main phase here. I'm going to use Jet to add Starter. That way I have 1 card follow-up plays. Now again, as they're threatening to go into battle phase, I'm going to use IP to make SP Little Knight. Little Knight here can banish the tier cache and make, you know, moving to battle phase not a big threat. This road is pretty obviously bait. They already had a Rhino Heart in hand, so they're trying to get me to use my negates here. As I go to normal summon Rhino Heart, I'm going to use one of my face down Imperms. No need to use Desiree's Omni Negate just yet. And we can use Ash Blossom against an in-hand effect. Something like Shiren, which my opponent's going to activate here. When it comes to playing against Tearlaments, I think that Shiren is actually one of the best things you can Ash Blossom, because it stops so many things. That just stopped the level 4 body from coming down, the mill 3, and also them sending a card from their hand to the graveyard. They were probably aiming to send this Destrudo. Now, the thing about Destrudo is that it can still summon itself if I banish a Rhino Heart with SP, but it won't get the level drop effect, which will make it a little bit more difficult to actually use as a synchro material to summon something like Prima Donna. I guess in some situations, Baron might be easier to summon, but yeah, they're just going to ultimately end up conceding here anyway. And there you go. Like I said, I think that is an excellent showcase of not only, again, a turn 1 combo line, but just the power of Swap Frog. It's not even bad if you open multiple copies. It's actually just ridiculously broken if you do. All right, there is our first duel. Why don't we take a look at our next one here? Okay, this opponent is on Fire King Snake Eye, and they actually worked in an Azamina package as well, which is kind of cool. Yeah, definitely don't sleep on Fire King Snake Eye. Still a very good deck in this meta for sure. Alright, we're taking the first turn here. Our opening hand is looking very, very good. Gonna lead with the Engraver here to add the Tract. And we are going to get hit with the Droll and Mockbird in response. Not to worry, we have the Swap Frog, but our opponent's got an Imperm as well. This is actually what I was kind of talking about here when I said one of the reasons I'm mating Valor and Imperms and prioritizing that a little more over the third Droll is because, like I said before, opening Droll plus a Negate, so good. It stops pretty much any kind of follow-up that your opponent could expect to have for most decks, reasonably. Yeah, Imperm on the Swap Frog is going to be enough to get me to end my turn here, setting my own 2 Imperms before passing over to my opponent here. They're going to lead with a normal summon Poplar. Definitely going to use an Imperm here. Not only because I have 2, but if your opponent's leading with a normal summon Poplar, in just about any Snake Eyes deck, that's probably going to be one of their weakest turn 1 combo lines. It also means they're a lot less likely to have an extender, because they can't just go Bonfire for Poplar, right? So yeah, definitely love to see that. I think even if I only had 1 Imperm, I would still just Imperm this Poplar here. Yeah, they're going to link into Linkuriboh, not activate Poplar's effect, and actually just pass over to me. I kind of understand that, maybe if they want to top deck Ogre or something, although I don't know. Maybe. So here they're going to go Ash Blossom on Fiendsmith's Tract, and I'm actually just going to let that resolve. That's completely fine with me because I can still activate gates and have follow-up. And also I can save my cross-out for something like another Joel and Lockbird. I was actually more anticipating like Max C, but we can definitely just use the cross-out here. You know, I'm thinking about this. I wonder if I should make room for one Fuelos as a cross-out target. Because I was about to say, oh, I have cross-out for Maxi or Fuelos, but then I realized, oh, I'm actually not playing Fuelos. Food for thought. The question that I actually have now is, would that be worth going to 43? It might actually be, honestly. We'll have to think about it later and run some numbers or something. Anyway, I've got one more duel for us to check out. Let's finish off with that one. And our final game is going to be against Stun, which is becoming an increasingly popular deck. Not even just with the new set, 7th Tachyon, I guess technically being support for Stun, as well as a lot of other decks. But even on top of that, it's just tends to be better in metas like this where, you know, long-form combo decks are a lot more prevalent. So here we opened with the Cashier Unicorn. Going to grab the Birth off that. Got thrown for Beckoning Beast. Wasn't really scared of Joel here because I have cross out, so. Alright, we get special summon the Carrot. Gonna link Unicorn and Beckoning Beast into Sprend. And we can use Sprend to dump Swap Frog. I actually misplayed, though, pretty heavily here. I went straight into Gigantic. There's no excuse for this. I was just on Spright autopilot, but, like, one, I didn't even activate Birth to get back Unicorn, so I missed out on that. Two, I could have very easily pivoted into Fiendsmith stuff and put Desiree on board before needing to go into Gigantic and, you know, 2-locking myself. So this is, like, definitely not optimal play here. Again, my Sprite autopilot brain just, like, took over and was like, summon 2s, summon 2s. And it's like, Lex, what about the things that aren't 2s? No, summon 2s. But even in spite of that, we're still going to manage to end on a pretty solid board here. It's going to be Elf IP that we're making here with the swap plus the Gigantic. We have the Carrot on board, and then we, of course, have the starter for red as well. We can even put an extra Ronin on the board, which is useful for red, Carrot, and IP, which do all need an extra body in order to make use of their effects. But yeah, I could have ended a lot better here. And it would have actually mattered here. Well, I think so, yeah. So Super Poly, when I saw them pitching Crackdown, I was pretty sure, okay, this is just Stun then, right? What other deck would play Super Poly plus Crackdown? Battling over the IP, I actually thought we were going to get hit with an evenly here. I saw them go straight to battle phase, but desires to draw 2. They've got the Earth Barrier Statue, Necro Valley, and Clockwork Knight. Don't really care about the Clockwork Knight, but the Earth Barrier Statue and Necro Valley are a little annoying. So is this Macrocosmos. But here, because we actually have Fenrir with the Birth, we're actually completely fine. I'm going to go activate Fenrir effect here, but they have a Solemn Strike, and you might think, oh no, Lex, you threw. But it actually doesn't even matter here, because guess what? Because of their macro, Fenrir is banished, which means Birth can bring it back, because Necro Valley only stops Graveyard, and it's an Earth, so the Barrier Statue doesn't stop it either. We can use Fenrir to banish the Garura, and then still battle over the Barrier Statue. Now here, again, my autopilot brain took over, and I was like, oh, I can go Elf and then activate, and then, oh yeah, Necro Valley. Right. But now my opponent's in top deck mode. They have to be able to get over the Fenrir here, and even if they are able to, again, it'll just get banished, and the Necro Valley can't actually stop the Birth from bringing it back. But yeah, I definitely goofed on that game a couple of times, and in spite of that, we still just, like, absolutely destroyed Stun here. But again, imagine if I had actually, you know, played optimally and had the Desiree on my inboard too. We wouldn't have had to put up with like half the BS in this game we did. But in spite of our opponent landing multiple floodgates, it was not enough to stop us from winning. So yay. All right. That is going to do it for that duel and for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, let's just move on now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.